Hello and welcome to the September 23rd, 2021 Sherborn Select Board meeting. Sorry, my thing. And I guess before to move it on, I'm going to please ask the town administrator to read the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. First of all, amend to approve the agenda and then a period of public comment. And then the first item is consent agenda with payroll warrant and setting next meeting dates of October 7th and October 21st. The second item is consideration of bond anticipation notes with Heidi Doyle, treasurer. Item 3 is historical society update with George Fisk. Item 4 is review of finance director, town accountant job description. Item 5, Pine Hill Access Road, discussion on next round of funding for transportation bond bill. Item 6, consideration of various appointments. That includes appointment to MAPC as the alternate representative, Seth Malloy, for a term to expire June 15th, 2024. MWRTA, Robert Wolf, for a term to expire June 15th, 2024. Interim Finance Director, Town Accountant, Jeb Seifring, reappointment for 60 days. Recycling Committee, Emily D. Eld, for a term to expire June 15th, 2024. Item 7, consideration of routine business with Select Board, Town Administrator. And then adjourn to executive session for 4 items. The exemptions are number 1, meeting with town council and executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, 6, and 7, and Suffolk Construction v. DCAM 449, Massachusetts 444, year 2007, to discuss 31 Hunting Lane and Igor Labarsky et al. v. Town of Sherborn Land Court Action number 21 MISC PS 000193, Spicer. Item 2, to meet with town council and the chair of the Conservation Commission to discuss a complaint letter dated August 16th, 2021 from Jonathan Hodson Walker and Lisa Hodson Walker of Silverwood Farm LLC against the Conservation Commission pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A, 1, 3, and 7, and Suffolk Construction v. DCAM. That's 449 Massachusetts 444, year 2007. Item 3, to discuss strategy with respect to threatened potential litigation if the chair so declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the select board in the town, and the chair does so declare, to discuss the town library pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 3, and 7, and Suffolk Construction v. DCAM 449, Massachusetts 444, year 2007. Item 4, review of executive session minutes from 2020 pursuant to GL Chapter 30A, Sections 21A, 3, and 22G, and then leave executive session to return to open session to adjourn. That's it.
Very good. Thank you very much, David. I have a motion relative to the agenda.
Move the approval.
Second.
Moving second. All in favor. Jeff?
Aye.
Marianne? I read lips. George?
Aye.
Paul?
You're
Aye.
muted, Marion.
And I am as well. Thank you very much. Now, from my understanding, I believe Gino Carlucci has a request for public comment. Go ahead, Gino. And you got to update your background to nighttime, by the way.
You got to unmute also. You're muted, Gino. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I should update the background. I agree.
I just wanted to report that earlier this week, the Baker Polito administration announced the Green Communities grants, and Sherborn was awarded just under 72,000. And the projects that we had submitted included replacing all 133 streetlights in town that the town now owns, as well as doing some insulation work and weather stripping in Town Hall and weather stripping at the DPW garage. The estimated savings from these projects is just over 16,000 annually. So the great thing about the Green Communities grants that I always love is that not only you get the money up front, but then it saves money into the future as well. And also, besides the monetary savings, it will also save 40 tons of greenhouse gas emissions per year. So that was it. I just wanted to report that good news.
Congratulations. Should we do a motion to accept the grant and to apply it for the purposes stated?
I'm leery on
Under-
doing a vote on a public comment. Shouldn't it be a real agenda item? Do you know what I mean? Is there any complication there?
Yes. Yeah, okay.
The thing. Just one question about that. There's movement, and I don't know how if the what is it? The sustainability group has an opinion on this. There's movement on the LEDs to make them. I think it's 4K versus 3K, which makes a yellow light versus a blue light for a lot of the dark skies initiatives. And I don't know what the cost estimate was, but I strongly because those LEDs will last forever, which is good and bad. I strongly suggest you use the non-blue light. I believe it's 4K frequency LED lights.
No, I think it's the opposite direction.
Oh, okay. Is it 3 versus 4?
3K is kind of the newer standard, but it's on the verge of going to even lower. And our proposal was for 27K, 2700K. So it'll be a much warmer light than the old 4K standard lights.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Okay. If that's it, move. And thank you very much, Gino. And excellent job. Excellent job. It's great to get that grant. Moving on to a consent agenda. Do I have any motions relative to consent agenda? Or
Move
question?
approval.
Okay. So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Paul.
Hi, Marianne. Aye.
I am also aye. Thank you very much. All right, good. Moving right along. Consideration of bond anticipation notes. Heidi Doyle, Town Treasurer. I saw
Thank you. Yes.
Mhm.
So I'm here to ask for the board to vote to reissue the $1.6 million bond borrowing anticipation note that we have out currently. It is up for renewal October 27th. And I would like to combine this with the prior vote about last meeting and have it all time to do a long-term borrowing in August. And this is for the library building project to just renew this.
Okay.
Borrowing.
Any questions from the board? Yeah, Paul.
So I'd move to approve the borrowing of 1.6 million for another bond anticipation note.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
and Paul.
Aye.
I am also aye. Thank you very much, Heidi.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 3, Historical Society update. And I see we have George Fisk attending. Hi, George.
Thanks, Eric, very much. And thank you to the select board for letting me spend a little bit of time bringing you up to speed with regard to the Historical Society. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do want to give you sort of a thumbnail history. The Historical Society first met in around 1911. It was first formed, but it actually was formally established in 1913. It's coincident with the gift to the town by William Bradford Homer Dowse, one of our most notable benefactors, who gave us the Dowse Memorial Building, 1913, with the proviso that space be dedicated to the Historical Society, the newly formed Historical Society. And We were in that building until 1971, when the Saltonstall family generously gifted us a new library. And then you may remember that the town office, which was in the Dowse Memorial Building from about that time until the early 1980s, was then moved to the Center School building where it is today. And when the building was sold to Louis Randa and the Life Experience School / Peace Abbey in the early 1980s, we moved with the town office over to the Center School building. We were then moved to the second floor and had a dedicated space there, but subsequently were asked to move out, and we were then relegated to the lower level of the building, and had been there up until a year ago, this June of 2020. And of course, we then were all faced with the pandemic, and we were notified by the town that we needed to vacate that space and would go into climate controlled storage, and have been there since. We moved quickly for the town. We moved, I think notice was given to us in May, I believe, of 2020. And by early June, I think the first week of June, we had moved out of the building, vacated, and were then in storage. And we've continued to be in storage since. I will say that the indication given to us at that time was that we would be ultimately relocated into the library space. Of course, the library space was being renovated and expanded. And we worked fairly closely, particularly with Jeff Waldron, and just sort of staying in touch with what all has been going on townwide with other matters, most notably the library reconstruction. So we're well aware of the issues that have been raised there. What I had suggested and was that we form a working group which consisted of 3 members of the library board. That was, and I chaired that from the Historical Society position. And then I asked Brian Connolly if he too would form a group of 3 people to work cooperatively with us to try to plan for our ultimate relocation in the library. And we worked, we worked hard for a number of months. I believe we started in earnest of August of 2020. We worked monthly through until probably midwinter. At that point, it was made fairly clear to us that the ability to us to be able to relocate in that building in any timely fashion was not going to happen. So our conversations with the library really ceased at that point, other than a few conversations that I've had with Brian in the intervening months. As you can well imagine, we're all frustrated by the issues that plague the town with regard to the library and other matters. But we just want to be sure that all the select board members are cognizant of our circumstances. It's very difficult. We've had our town historian has been working hard toward finishing a book she's worked on for several decades. It's a history of the town of Sherborn, which we believe is going to be quite complete, quite accurate. But at this juncture, she's unable to access archives. And that's been an issue for us. We have also talked about, since we don't believe we're likely to be relocated, whether it's the library or elsewhere, for quite some time, that it probably would make sense for us to try to access not necessarily our large items and furnishings and that sort of thing. We're part of the museum, but the archival materials that we have, we'd like to be able to access to begin to thoroughly reorganize them for an ultimate relocation, again, wherever that might be. I would say that we brought out the head of collections at Historic New England, We asked her to come out. We were pleased to have her. We spent a good deal of time walking her through the unfinished area in the library where it's thought that we might be relocated, as well as looking at the first floor of the community center, which has been suggested as a possible location. Although more recently, we've thought about that as a possible space for us to have on a short-term basis for going through our archives. Although we also recognize with the most recent history that the likelihood of the library itself moving out of the community center doesn't appear to be happening very quickly. So having a space where we can review our archives is something that's very much of interest to us. So I just really wanted to make you all well aware of that. I will also add there is the town has been kind enough to give us space in the town office building. Those display cabinets have been wonderful for us to have rotating displays there, although we ran into a situation last year where one of the display cabinets had a leak. I think it was a sprinkler system leaked, and we did lose some of our items. We've retrieved as much as we could, and those are now in safekeeping. But it's sad to sort of lose so much space and for such an extended period of time. So I raise that with you, not suggesting there is a solution. It's really intended to be more of an awareness for you to recognize that we, along with, I know, a number of other groups in town, are concerned about space needs and being able to properly function. So it's been difficult for us, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions that any of you may have regarding our circumstances. Paul.
That's great, George. Thank you very much. Yeah, Paul, please.
So I want to say a couple of things. First, on the book of the history of the town, I hope there's a chapter on George Fisk and your contribution to the community, because you've done so much for so long. It's just an amazing saga. I'm very much committed to honoring the commitment that was made back in 1913 that the Historic Society is supposed to be part of the library. The building was donated for library use on the condition that the Historical Society have space in there. So I, for one, am very much committed in following through on that. Even though it's been more than 100 years, I believe we should honor this commitment. That means ultimately you need to go into the library. And as you know, we are doing everything we can as a Board of Selectmen to move this library along. There's going to be more on that subject, I guess, later in this meeting. The idea is to have you be in that library building consistent with that original commitment. So that's all I wanted to say at this point.
I
Very
think, well, go ahead. I'll let Marion go, then I can talk afterwards, Eric.
Okay, yeah, Marianne, then Jeff, in fact. And Paul, if you don't mind, if you could put your virtual hand down, please. Thank you.
All right. I always assumed that what Paul said was basically the will, the spirit of the town. So I'm in agreement with him there, although I'm not up on the current thinking on the library space. This is just my feeling about it. I agree with Paul. But I also am aware that this request is also to be able to work on organizing the Historical Society files and documents, which are extensive and valuable and not in the greatest array because of the physical situations in which they've been kept. They've had to be kept, although the Historical Society and the historian have done an amazing job. But still, I hear in your request, George, also a request for temporary space where work in organizing the collection could go on. And I think that's really valuable work to do. So it's kind of a problem of many moving parts. You're still in the town hall. We don't know, I personally don't know, maybe the rest of you do, when the basement of the town hall will be occupied by other groups. But I think at some point we need to define what square footage, table space, file space, etc., is needed to do this job. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree.
What I would say, Marion, is, and answer to that is that we did spend a good deal of time with the library, the working group, and we have come up with at least a tentative plan for the location and square footage that we would be allotted, that would we would like to think work for everybody. It is true that we'd like to have some space for reviewing what we have in the way of archives now, to try to be, have everything better organized than it is right now. It's been in storage for well over a year, and not being able to access it has been an issue. And we think when the time does come, when we are relocated, that as much preliminary work as we can get done with the people we have would be of great benefit to us, and I think to the town. But I also recognize that space is an issue, and so I don't really have a solution with regard to that. But you are saying, you are correct in the fact that having some swing space for reviewing what we have, going through, culling out, adding as necessary, is important to us. And we have the people, the enthusiasm. We've had several people step up wanting to volunteer to help us, but we can't do anything while things are in storage.
Good point. Very good point. Jeff, please go ahead.
Yeah, as George indicated, he and I have been working on this for a year and a half, and I also want to recognize two other people tonight. Margot Pawicki and Martha Mahard are both on the call too, and they're a tremendous team. So they work closely with us. And, the library actually voted and approved, and Brian can chip in, they voted and approved 1,800 square feet of space in the old part of the library basement to be dedicated to the museum. So that was done in, I can't remember, you can tell me when, Brian. So there was an elaborate discussion about the space needed for the ultimate location. And I'm, in terms of going through the collection, as George said, I don't think we'll be trying to go through, and you can correct anything I misstate, George, going through the entire collection, because there's some very large pieces, including 14-foot long tables and things, but certainly the archive materials and the records to help Betsy and to help the rest of the team. And so I'm confident, we're still working to get town hall reconfigured. The basement space that was the former museum space was just recently recarpeted completely. The carpet there'd been a leak there. The carpet was 20 years old. So it's now been recarpeted. It's been painted. There's a new ceiling. So we need to move forward now with relocating the land use office down there. And then I think there will free up some space elsewhere in the building. We'll be reconfiguring the COA, and I'm sure there'll be space available. So we'll have to identify what it is. But I think this was a good update, and this really is vital to the town. And I think we can accommodate it.
Hey, Jeff. I want to recognize Brian Connolly. That's the hand raise.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I just want to reemphasize what Jeff and George had said. We did do some work on this last fall, and the trustees did vote to allocate that space in the basement of the 1971 building to the Historical Society. We've had delays, as you guys all know, but the other topic we discussed quite a bit was, could we kind of simultaneously do the work in the basement and also do the work upstairs? And I think the sense of the trustees was, given the challenges we've had with the builder and the surety, that to try to bring the Historical Society in as we were trying to complete construction would it would just be too much complexity given the challenges we've got around that. But we are committed to giving that space. And George, Margot, we did a lot of work on that. We put it on hold just because the library construction has been, much further behind schedule than we thought. But we are committed to do that. And we did take a trustees vote, and we did. There was a lot of kind of active discussion about it. We did get to a consensus to support it.
Very good. Okay, are there any other questions here from for George or any other relative comments? I'll say I agree with Paul in that I think there should be some part of the historical society put aside for the Fisk family. They're relatively new to town. I think was it 1706, George? I think it is.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I just really, it was really an opportunity for us to be sure that the select board is aware and others who are tuned in. And also, yes, certainly Martha and Margot worked very hard with us along with Brian and some other library trustees on this whole effort. And I think I'm looking forward to coming to fruition. I also want to thank other board members who have tuned in here tonight as moral support, and I think their ability to suffer through, but just recognize that at some point in time we will be successful.
Very good. Paul, you had your hand raised. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I know that Dave Williams has been working on relocating the offices. It's good to hear about the carpeting and so on. He had presented a plan at one point, and we had said no to that particular plan. I'm wondering when David or who is going to come with a revised plan for allocating the space in the basement. And in that plan, is there space for the Historic Society to have a working area where they can do this cataloging? So I guess that's a question for either Jeff or Dave Williams.
Jeff, do David want to just acknowledge that or just maybe look into it?
Yeah, we sort of are. David, you want to go ahead?
I was just going to say we would accommodate whatever space in town hall. But I haven't moved any offices since that one meeting saying that not to. So nothing has moved. But we can begin that at any time. And I just, if Jeff wants to bring a different plan back, we could do that either way.
Well, Sean already had one thing in this regard. Sean has already got drawings that were provided to him by WB Mason, I think it was, for the lower level to be a land use office. So I have not seen those. Part of the issue is just that because Sean has really done a lot of the legwork in getting construction work planned and that kind of thing. But because we had the Pine Hill Access Road, then we had that crazy road washout on Route 16 2 weeks ago. Sean's been a little tied up with the paving around Town Hall too. So that's why it hasn't proceeded as fast as we hoped. But I think the space is ready. We just have to get the workstation set up and there'll be a counter built in the former museum space so that when contractors or lawyers come in and want documents, they won't wander through our offices anymore. They'll come up to a counter and they'll request the documents they want, and then there'll be a seating area there, and there's already a copy machine down there to allow them to access documents, but without wandering through the planning board, Board of Health, and all the other departments down there.
Is there space for the Historical Society?
Yes, we have to work things out because there's several options on the table now for the COA. As you know, we reviewed an option even last meeting where they talked about maybe soliciting opportunities to rent some space in town and certainly need to move out of that cramped tiny space where Sue is right now in the basement. But I'm pretty sure that David, you can pipe in, and I didn't see Sean on here tonight, so I don't know.
once COA, if they are successful moving out of town hall and finding an area, there's space down there. It is basically half the ground floor would
Yeah.
be available. Just not that one big room,
Well, if we
But-
move, when we move the land use people downstairs, then you have the office on the second floor there where they are now too.
Yeah, I have to spread people out up there too.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I don't want to turn this too much into a working dialogue, if you don't
Yeah.
mind. I think we could probably go on forever onto different things there. If you don't mind, I'd like to recognize Marion Nutra, please. You're on mute, Marion.
You may want to cut me off, and it's okay if you do, because it's a little bit on the same subject, but I haven't heard an answer to the previous question or comment. If there's a new overall plan for town hall, and if so, can we have access to it? I have absolutely no idea what the plan is at this point, except the general concept of moving the planning entities to the basement. And I would just like to see it and have a chance to mull it over.
Yeah, it's a panorama of that room showing where the desk would be and stuff. It's not of the whole building.
Okay, is there kind of a global plan for the whole building, or is it too early to ask such a question?
From relocating people?
Right.
Yeah, basically all the land use that's upstairs would move downstairs to the basement. What we had altered from is that we were going to put the selectman's office down there and bring finance down, and that would open up the top floor completely for land use. So all we're doing is reversing those two things. So land use is going from top to the bottom, and we're not moving the select board office because that was going to be turned over to COA. And then upstairs, spread out the number of people up there, but there will be space. There will be space to accommodate people.
I mean, I
We're
just would like
changing,
to see a
most of the
floor plan.
departments aren't moving, Marion. In other words, like the collector's office, the assessor's office, the town clerk's office aren't changing. So it's
Second
really
floor will,
primarily land use and then some reallocations after that. But we do need a plan. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
could I request that a plan be prepared, an agenda item set up, so that we can have a discussion on a micro level as to what office is going where, and have a vote of the board, and then get it implemented. If the space is ready, let's do it. And as part of that plan, let's see if we can get some space for the Historical Society to do what they were asking for, at least on a temporary basis until they can move into the library. But until we have the plan, we're frozen in place. So somebody needs to, and it doesn't need to be an engineered drawing, land court, recordable, even if it's on a piece of paper, hand drawn, but at least a plan as to who's going to go where, even if it's just a proposal without consensus, but present it, let us air it out, let's get reaction to it, and let's vote.
I can
Please.
make that visual, Paul, and get
Mr.
it on an
Chair.
agenda.
Yeah, let me, actually, Marion, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Just thank you, Paul. That was just what I was asking for.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Hi, I'm on as Christina. I've been raising my hand for 20 minutes. We have a decent plan. The problem is it keeps moving because at this point, the COA says they're leaving, or there's talk of them leaving. We can draft up a quick plan. It's relatively easy to say that land use is going downstairs. Anyone that knows the functions of town hall can guess what land use is. COA was going to go upstairs. We can draft that all out. If people want to spend a bunch of money on an architect, we can, but I can tell you it's going to take another 6 months to draft it all up. And
Sean, I think
part of the delay is we're trying to work through some building issues we had. there's a lot going on the site right now. And frankly, right now, if we call up and try and get any millwork made outside of privately doing it with local contractors, the lead time is 6 months. So I'm doing the best I can to try to accommodate everyone. We can move people with the furniture they have, but buying furniture right now is probably not going to happen. It's just millwork and furniture is just out of control.
Now, I'll agree. The construction is crazy expensive right now. To me, I actually don't think it's the worst thing in the world if this thing gets kicked down a little bit, if it requires any major renovations. You look at
Right.
anything we've bid out over recently. I mean, like the Pine Hill Road, it's great, but it's expensive because we're doing it during the COVID thing. It's the way it is. So
Right.
I would actually hold off anything that's not necessary. Let me do this.
We've been
Offline,
slowly getting the room ready. The rooms are ready. Some of the offices could move down there. As everyone knows, it's behind basically a locked door. So there's no reason people couldn't just work down there as well as they can work upstairs. So we're going to probably do a stepped approach to getting people down there. We need to bring movers in to move the massive amount of cabinets that are up there. We're not going to have DPW workers breaking their back, moving the 10,000 pounds of records that are upstairs, but they got to get out of there. So we're going to work with that, but it's disruptive to the boards and committees. So we got to take our time doing it. But if you want a written plan of where people are going, we can do that. But
now here's what we'll do. Offline, I'll touch base with you, Jeff, and David, see where we stand, and then see what's coming for us. There are certain reasons that some things are being somewhat purposely delayed, to be honest with you. This isn't just a non-action
Right.
from people. I know a little bit what's going on. I don't know quite as much as Jeff and you, but I know a fair amount. And maybe it's just simply coming back with like a report or something like that. But let's do that. I'll touch base with the three of you offline, and then we'll come back with something. I didn't want this to,
Great.
it's a historical society update, and it's turning into a working group meeting about where to put furniture.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please, David.
Can I'll put something together that's graphically showing the movement from before and after.
Okay. Like I said, I do want it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll set something up in the next couple of weeks amongst us four, and let's get an idea where we stand. Okay. If there's not anything further else, and Christina can lower the hand, I'm going to move on to agenda item number 4. And thank you very much, George. Thank you for the update.
Thank you, Eric. I've got to
Doesn't,
go tend to my beans. I think they're on the stove and had been.
Okay. I didn't expect that quite the discussion.
All right.
I'll move on to agenda item 4. Agenda item number 4, finance director / town accountant job description. I think George had
Yeah, I had mentioned this at the last meeting, but I do want to table this. Just I haven't had time to prepare anything or talk to anybody about it. So if we could just push this off for another meeting, I'd appreciate it. I'm just not ready to discuss it tonight.
very good. I agree. Yeah, David.
I just need to know, we still need to hold up the hiring. You appointed you're appointing the interim person for another 60 days.
Right. So that's
yeah,
why, and
okay.
I think that's part of it. We're not in any huge hurry because Deb's doing a great job as an interim, and we can take the time to be thoughtful about this. So I'd rather be more prepared when we have a discussion, and we can reappoint Deb later in the meeting. Okay, and I just wanted to add that it's the job description and what was approved by the town and the bylaw has some differences that need to be worked out. They need to be fixed in the bylaw, which would mean going to town meeting. So Right.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
part of why I'd want to think about it for more time. Is it's a ways till town meeting, and if we have to make a change, then I think we need to take our time on this.
Yep. Thanks, George.
Great. Okay, item number 5, Pine Hill Access Road, discussion of next round of funding for the transportation bond bill. Who is speaking on this?
I can say that in this last round, we submitted to the governor's office. It actually had numbers put together from the engineering plan. And so that was the first time that we put a request on the governor's desk that had actual price estimates other than ballparks. So this had actual real numbers attached to it. But we have made that request 2 times before over the last 7 years. And it hasn't moved. So I don't see making another request other than trying to get attached to an earmark other than this transportation bond bill item that, like I said, is on the governor's desk.
And I didn't see the request, but is this, the discussion last time on packaging a little differently, instead of talking about school, package it as a safety, and also work on the fact that Pine Hill is the town's emergency shelter, and that
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
believe it was, we sent it out to the full board. We sent it to the legislative delegation. And Addie had sent that out. But I'll make sure that you get that packet again to review. But yes, it was a comprehensive request.
That packet was late. It came too late to the legislature to be included in the funding bill that authorized the borrowing.
But like I
So
said, it's
basically what hasn't been looked at.
it's been there twice before, but not with details that they could, actually include it. So we didn't get those the bids back on that till sometime just before town meeting.
Don't you have actuals by now? I mean, the road's basically built.
Yeah, yeah, we have actuals now. We have the bills. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with that kind of specificity, and if we do it now, basically you want to do it by January. So we're at the time where it would be timely. Then it would go into the hopper and somebody would look at it. But sending it late after the horse is already out of the barn, wasn't looked at.
Right. So it was submitted before the road was finished, but we can do an update of it and resubmit just to get it to the top of the pile again.
Yep, I would recommend that.
Okay.
And I'll be the first to say I'm not savvy with the general court's schedule. So Paul, like when do they start reviewing any articles, or at least stuff from the transportation bond bill? When does that vote? When is what? Just in vague terms, what is the schedule and something like that?
So the bill was enacted in May and June. So in order to have a bill on the floor being voted on, getting something from Sherborn would require somebody to amend the bill and add stuff to a bill that's already been going through the process. To get a bill passed, it has to go through 3 readings, all that kind of stuff. And it was poised for enactment when our stuff came in. That's a huge burden to impose on our legislators to try and stop the big process that affects a lot of communities and do an amendment.
Yeah, I agree. It should not be an amendment. I just know it's a chance to basically make the next bill. That's the only thing I was asking.
So that should be by January.
Okay, by January. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to commend Addie May, not just because that package came from my office, but that was one of the most professionally done packages that I'm certain this town has sent to the State House. And I know it got a lot of attention. It might have been a little late to the game, but it was really well done. And anyone that hasn't seen it should request a copy of it, because it was awesome. It was great work by Addie May.
Yeah, maybe it was a while ago. Maybe I remember. Maybe David could redistribute that. That'd be nice.
It's a big package. It's a huge package. It's very good though. Remember, after town meeting, we walked it with her. We walked the whole route. And
I remember it was before the top course was on. Yes, I remember that actually.
Yeah,
That was good.
Yep.
So I guess trying to bring this to full conclusion. It looks like it did not make the transportation bond bill. Are we going to attempt for it to make the next transportation bond bill? It's a submission by January. Is there any people want to have any discussion on that? I guess, what is the next steps here? Because we've known that I, for example, I'm not, I know it's a little iffy here. I would actually dedicate some of the, what's it called, the REMA funds, whatever they're called, the COVID funds,
ARPA.
into paying down this project. I really would. I'm not just looking to, buy things for the sake of buying things. This easily justifies it, given that it's the town's emergency shelter, and I fully support that. I think it's iffy if we get any earmark funds. If we do, maybe bring down the overall request might actually help its saleability, to be honest with you, by putting in the ARPA fund. So I know it's not directly on the agenda, but that's something which I personally would like to see happen.
I have no
think there's,
problem.
there's other reasons too. They're looking for projects that are sort of quote unquote showcase projects. And Paul made this point very strongly in our last meeting about this being fitting that perspective. So I think there's a good chance that that could work. And just so you know, we already have the funds. We have to just justify have the expense be approved.
And I'm not looking to buy things just like buying things. I'd much rather have it drill down fiscal obligations that we already have. So
right.
That's where I stand with it. I don't know if this comes back on the agenda, maybe in November or something like that, to see where we stand on a second submission for an earmark. Maybe that's the right thing to do there, and start reaching out to our delegation. I think that's maybe the only thing I have next. Sean, do you still have something to say, or is your hand raised from before?
No, I gotta lower it, sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
I think Paul was going to say something though.
Yeah, Paul, did you have?
Yeah, I have no problem with using ARPA funds for this purpose, but if we get 1.6 million from the transportation bond issue, that just gives us more ARPA funds to use for other things.
Yes.
So I don't see a reason why we can't pursue both. I don't think they're exclusive.
That's not how long these ARPA funds are good for, to be honest with you. And I just saw it as a means to,
2025 until early 2025, I believe.
So, and with the bond, interest is so cheap right now, we're better off not earmarking the ARPA funds if we'll get the state funds right away, but we could still use the ARPA down the road.
Right.
Okay. All right, I don't know if we can put a request in this some way. And again, I'm not savvy at the state level. The state itself has ARPA funds dedicated to them. Certain communities, from what I understand, are actually getting access to those state funds. And I don't know if there's enough connections with a delegation to actually start pursuing those as well. So, yep. All right, is there any more discussion on this here? Okay, that's great. Very good. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to do agenda item number 6, consideration of various appointments. You can be read at MAPC, alternate representative Seth Malloy, MWRTA, Robert Wolf, interim finance director, town accountant, Deb Seffering, and recycling committee, Emily Eldon. Sorry if I mispronounced that. So that's who's speaking on this. Is this Diane or David?
Diane has this.
Okay.
Can she speak on it?
You're muted, Diane. You got to unmute yourself. Do I need to unmute you? I can't. You need to unmute yourself.
I did. Okay, I'm on. I'm unmuted now. Yes, the MAPC, Seth Malloy has, graciously stepped forward to be an alternate for Marion Nutra on the MAPC committee, and that was posted and met all the requirements. On the MWRTA, Robert Wolf is being brought forward by Chris Owen from the Board of Health. He's making a recommendation that the board consider appointing him to that committee.
You mean from the
Deb
planning board, not Board of Health?
Oh, yeah,
You
planning
misspoke.
board, I'm sorry. And interim finance director, Deb Seffering's due up again for another 60-day reappointment. And Emily Elk has come forward. We've been looking for somebody on the recycling committee for quite some time. And she was gracious enough to submit an application to be considered for appointment to that committee too.
Okay.
So I'm asking the board tonight if they'll consider making these appointments.
So can I move to make all the appointments in accordance with the report in the packet for the terms specified therein?
Sounds good to me. Second. All right. And first, I just want to thank everyone for volunteering. Volunteerism is the backbone of this town. Jeff, how do you vote?
Hi.
Marianne?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I am I as well. And again, thank you all very much. All right, moving on. Routine business, select board, any select board reports?
I just have one that I wanted to bring up quickly. I was on the phone with a longtime town resident who said she lived here for 45 years. And she was talking, and it was funny because we were just talking about ARPA funds. And she told me about initiative back 50 years ago in town, that the sidewalk that goes down Farm Road was initially thought to go all the way to Lake Street so kids could get from downtown to Farm Pond. But there was a resident who's no longer with us that it stopped at his property because it never was allowed to cross. And it was just an idea. And then when she mentioned this, like it would connect Great Rock to downtown and maybe go down to Lake Street. And then in my mind, I thought, well, maybe this is a good use of ARPA funds. Maybe this is a project that we want to consider, because connecting Farm Pond so people could get there by bike or walk on a sidewalk could be an interesting idea. I just wanted to bring it up because somebody brought it up to me.
I see you, Marianne. Before I recognize you, I want to, is Gino still on the call? I see him.
No, I don't think so.
That's a
I
good
actually
question
like-
though, because complete streets could also be used for
Oh,
this
Oh,
too.
okay.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that, because I think we have complete streets remaining, but we actually would be eligible for another $400,000. And I think that's exactly where I was going. That's why I wanted to talk to Gino, is to see
Yeah.
where we stood with that. I think we have a little more complete streets money, not enough to build something like that, but it'd actually be a great candidate for a second wave. No question about it. Marianne, were you going to say the same thing, or?
The same thing, exactly.
So,
Yeah, I'd love to see that sidewalk. And even though it won't go all the way to the pond, it'll effectively like add connectivity from downtown. We have all this new housing developments downtown and
Mhm.
safe passage to at least near the pond,
Right.
at least a little fun.
And it's not even like a fancy sidewalk with granite curbing or anything. I mean, the sidewalk that's there is just a paved path, really. And that's really all you would need. It's not like you need to do anything. It was interesting. I had never heard that the initial plan a long time ago was to connect it to Lake Street, but
The only thing I'll say is it's ADA requirements. Sidewalks are far more expensive now, relative to inflation they were years ago.
I'm sure.
It's just the way it is. Yeah. All right. Any other select board reports? Okay. How about town administrator? David, do you have a town?
No, I'm good, Eric. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. Nice short meeting. City council must be talking a lot. I'm not even up yet. Okay. All that being said, I move that we adjourn open session and go into an executive session for the agenda items as previously read by the town administrator, as I declare as chair that an executive session is warranted. We'll exit executive session only to go to open session strictly for the purpose of closing the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay. All in favor, Jeff,
aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
and Paul?
Aye.
Just
Okay.
one other clarification, Eric, is that there's people here we have 4 items, so I'm gonna put people in the waiting room, and if your item's second or third or something, just hang in there.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, before executive
We
session.
need to only allow the people for item 1 right now, but there are people on here who are waiting for items 2 and 3, I think. Not item 4, but 2 and 3, I believe. So anyway,
We'll leave you to manage that, Jeff.
Yep.
yeah, I know. That's why they pay me the big bucks, George.
Before someone says something dangerous in executive session, can you just turn off the recording?
So do we have a motion to adjourn in open session?
So moved.
Second,
Marion,
aye.
Paul,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
and I am I as well. Good
All
job.
right, we kept it under 2 hours. Good job.
I know.
Hooray. Good job, Jeff.
Thank you.
Ciao, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
good night.
everybody.
Aye,
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Paul.